Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome once again to your Investment Dominator live Q&A call. And I am Warren Davis, and I'm glad to be with you here on this beautiful Thursday, August 8th, 2019. And we did miss you on Monday. Those of you that might have been on the 5 p.m. call, we had to cancel that call. Unfortunately, I had an unexpected trip to the emergency room, and we were able to get past that hard time, but we did miss being able to speak with you on Monday and get some of your questions answered. Hoping that if you were on that call, you just bring your questions to today's webinar and we'll get them addressed here. So, want you all to know we do have probably some brand new people on with us that have just probably joined the Investment Dominator group that came out of the last event that was just in Dallas, Texas. And so we definitely want to welcome all of the first-time individuals that are on the call today at this noon session, and we're going to look forward to getting more of your questions answered. So before I get started, I want to make sure that you can see my screen, which says your questions answered, and that you can hear me. Okay, I'm understanding that I'm coming through according to my indicators, but it's, if someone would just give me a yes, we can hear you and we can see your screen, that will help me to know that at least I'm broadcasting okay. Okay, thank you, John. Appreciate it. So getting your questions answered, for those of you that are brand new, that's what we're here for. And we want to make sure that you know how to type in your questions. So to send me your questions, and all you have to do is type them into should be a message or a control panel on your screen. Thank you, Gidget. And what you would do is just type in your question here and hit send, and that question will immediately get to me. If you have any specific questions that you even came to the call with, you can start writing them in at this time. And the way I'd appreciate it if you could, remember to send in your questions. I have just a little example here. If you could either put a question mark and then state the question, or write out the word question and then state your question here, whatever your question would be. That will help me to determine, differentiate between questions and actual comments. When I see the question mark, I'll know that that's a question that we're to address on this call. So if you would, I would really appreciate that. And also, for the benefit of the brand new people that are joining us, we want you to know that all these calls are recorded. And so you will be able to, if you miss a call, if you've signed up for both the Monday and the Thursday sessions, we want to make sure that you can get copies you can listen to the recorded calls that way, and so you don't miss anything. So I'm going to go real quickly go over that for our brand new people. When you're on and you hit the help and you go into weekly live Q&A training calls here, you expand that. Once you log into Investment Dominator, this will allow you to register for your Monday sessions and for Thursday sessions. And basically, we'll have them, this twice a week, 5 p.m. Pacific time on Mondays and 12 noon on Thursdays. And if you want to list all of the ones that we've already recorded, you would just hit that one link that will bring you into, and it shows you all the live training calls by date. And what we do on each call, just so you know, I think I've gone over this with a few of you on the onboard calls, but what you would do once you get into a particular live training, we have the timestamps out here to the right. And this will enable you to, if you look at the area that you want to get knowledge about, you can go, like 6 minutes and 50 seconds into the call. And you can, why we use tags to track subgroups. You go 21 minutes and 55 seconds into the call. Then, so you don't have to go through the entire video and listen to all of it before you get to the calls that you're interested in. And all of them are recorded with the videos over here to the right-hand side. So I want to make sure you have access to that for your own knowledge and development. And so we're going to go on, get started with any questions that you have. Go ahead and start sending them in even now, and I'll hopefully be able to get to them before the end of this call. Those of you that have just recently joined us, I'm excited for you, and we wanted to look at. We were looking at one question that we had on last week. I believe it would have been last Thursday, that I'm going to continue with. Before I get into that specific question, I just want to provide a little clarity on something we've been seeing as we talk to different ones in the marketplace, and those of you that are kind of new to this business. As we talk to different students, we find out that there's certain things that are hindering students' progress, or that are making them, you know, work a little harder or have to kind of push a little harder. And I'm just going to point some of those out on this call. These aren't the only issues, I'm sure, but I just want to make sure you guys have an idea of some things that might hinder your progress. Number one, what I've been hearing from some students is that they're kind of like circumventing the LPG2 deal flow. And if you remember, let's see, on yes, the LPG deal flow here that you can see on my screen. This is the deal flow basically that you selecting a target market. Now, this is for your overall business. This is what Jack teaches. This is the deal flow that he wants. He expects you to follow, at least initially, so that you can get deals coming in. You want to select your target market, then you get a contact list of landowners and filter your list. Then you get into mailing letters and talking to sellers and doing, once you get those letters back, or those response from those letters where they say, hey, I want an offer on my property, you're going to do some preliminary research. And then, of course, you're going to mail your offers out and your option agreements out to those individuals, and hopefully they are going to be writing you back soon to say, hey, I accept your offer. And you're going to then open escrow. And once they accept your offer, you're going to do a detailed research of those properties. So some of these steps are in this process deal flow for a reason, because number one, they work. But what we've been noticing sometimes is that some students are kind of bypassing some of these steps and trying to I guess figure out how to do it on their own, and it's caused a few issues with them making progress. And I'll give you an example. Instead of mailing letters out to sellers, which is here, and talking to sellers, instead of doing that, there are some students that are trying to go directly to builders in their counties. They've selected a county. They figure, well, I'll talk to the builders and I'll get an idea of, what kind of land they want to buy. Okay, that's fine. That's a good thing to do, if it were down the road and you had some deals under your belt. But, for brand new students who you don't even have maybe some letters under contract, or any deals under contract yet. That's kind of a I don't want to say a waste of your time. It's a good exercise, but it's not going to move you forward in the initial stages of your business, if that makes sense. So rather than spending time talking to builders, the whole idea here is to be mailing those letters out and talking to sellers that want to buy that property. Don't spend your time doing activities that really aren't going to benefit you at an early stage in the business. So, and of course, we're not trying to tell you how to do your business. It is your business. But we just want to let you know there's some things we're seeing that are hindering students from making good progress. Secondly, we've seen the example of where students they won't mail out letters consistently. That, again, this is an important step. Either weekly or on a bi-weekly basis, whatever you can do. And we do understand that there's a cost that you incur with mailing out those letters. And folks are working on a budget. I know we were working on a budget when we first started the business. So, we couldn't do 500 letters a week. We couldn't do even 300 letters a week. We could afford to do, somewhere around 200, 250 a week to get going. And, but we did that consistently every week, and that's the important thing to see here, is that consistency, mailing out your letters and talking to sellers, will help you from from getting stuck in the business and saying, oh, ahead, this is not working. And you also want to mail those letters out and talk to sellers, because you do want to understand if you've got a good market where you currently are at. So you want to be testing your market, and that has to come by you doing a consistent mailing out of those letters. Thirdly, we've seen where some students are sidetracked by other projects going on in their life, and we totally understand. You have a life, and you have other things that you can do. Some of the major projects that you might be involved in, or even courses that you're taking outside of the LPG2 course, just understand that that's going to take your efforts. That's going to divide your efforts, and it may hinder a little bit your progress in the business. But again, it is up to you. And this is just what we're seeing, that some students get a little discouraged because they're not seeing deals come through, and they have some of these other factors working against them. So just encouraging you to as much as possible, stay focused on the land business if you can, as much as you can, and I believe you'll see it pay great dividends. So that said, we'll move on to answering one of our Investment Dominator questions that we had started on last Thursday, and it has to do with one, I think, individual named Carmen had written in and said that she was noticing where an Investment Dominator was rounding her APN number, and seemed like the numbers were changing based on what APN number she had in her import. And we want you to know that that wasn't really an Investment Dominator doing that. It's actually the issue with that is Excel. Excel is basically a financial program, and it converts a lot of numbers, and that's by design. So we want everyone to understand that you're dealing with a financial based program. And I'll give you an example of what I was speaking of on the other day. Let's see here if I can bring up the okay. Pipeline. Okay. Bring up the file I think I was dealing with the other day on. So this is part B of this discussion, basically. Want you to see here that this is an Excel spreadsheet, and what we're talking about is some of the APN numbers. At times when you import those that have zeros, they sometimes Excel will round these numbers up or down, or usually rounding them up, and under this APN, and it could change actually your APN, the way your APN number looks, and therefore it's going to come into Investment Dominator incorrectly. So if I'm just throwing this out there for those of you that might be seeing this with some of your imports. If you notice at any point where your APN number gets changed, it's not really Investment Dominator doing that. That couldn't be Excel doing that. And so what we're going to just put in a quick show you how to handle that quickly. Here I've selected the entire column where my APN number is, and I go down here to Format Cells, and obviously we want to select that this is a number. So it defaults to general, but it's actually a number, and you want to make sure that it's not going to put in any decimal places so that it doesn't look like a dollar figure. So we would bring that to 0 decimal places. And that's basically all you would have to do. Once you click OK, it's going to change this now to just a straight number field, and your APNs won't get changed. So you would, of course, bring this in, go through the same. So all I did was right click. You went on my mouse, right click, and come down to Format Cells, select that, and then change it to number, change it to decimal places 0, and hit OK. And that's going to then make sure all of your APNs are numbers. And then obviously you want to come up here and save this file because this is your import file, right? So you want to save it so that it saves those changes. So now that was one part of the issue that we were seeing. The next part had to do with the zip code. And I think I did demonstrate this on last week. This particular zip code right here, if I were to put a 0 in front of that, so I want that zip to be 04574. And as soon as I go away, you see Excel suppresses that leading 0. It's not treating it like it's a real zip code. So in that case, for the zip code, you would come over and do the same thing, go up and select, left click on that cell so you have the entire row of zip codes. Then you right click and get down again to Format Cells. So we're close to what we're doing before. And here you want to say that it's special. This is a special category so that then you can bring up zip code. And once you bring up zip code, make sure zip code is selected, because I think when you come up, it might bring up either zip code +4 or maybe on some other designation, but make sure you select special and zip code and click OK. Now, as you can see, my 0 appears, which was always there, but Excel was just suppressing it. And that will make sure your zip codes are all going to remain the same when you import them into the Investment Dominator. So this doesn't always happen. I want you to know it's just happening with a few students and in a few counties that they're bringing in the data from, or maybe the way they're importing the data. I don't know if it's the way it's maybe coming out of Agent Pro 247 or the other CRM. I believe that is out there. I think it's Trello, or excuse me, not Trello, but Robo Gateway is the other way that students are getting their lists. So I don't know if that's what's causing them, but when they're importing, they're noticing that these numbers are changing, and that will prevent it, at least from the APN and zip code area. And as you're aware, those are the two very important pieces of data, your APN and your zip code. So you want to make sure you always get those in properly. Okay, very good. We're gonna move on here, and let's look. Okay, how do we get a thumbnail pic on the selling website? That's interesting. That's a question from Gene, and I may have to look this up a little further. Get a thumbnail, because I was under the impression. Let's see, how do you get a thumbnail picture on the selling website? I was under the impression that any of the pictures that were being brought in to Investment Dominator were already actually coming in as a thumbnail print, a thumbnail picture, because that's mainly for the resolution or for the speed of the site. And I'll go to let's see, where I would be marketing on my selling site, anything in complete ready to sell. And I want to choose one here. Hopefully we've got some pictures in here, or photos. So I was under the impression already that any of these that were coming in, they were actually changing the resolution and instead of them being full resolution, which means they would be much clearer, but it would also, when you have like 10 or 12 of these pictures, it would slow down the ability to display those pictures on the site. So from a performance standpoint, I was already under the impression that any images that you brought in were coming in as thumbnails. Now, so if that's what you're talking about, Gene, I think they're already coming in that way. So if you're asking, is there a particular way to put any other images on these images, I'll have to research that. But to my knowledge, like if I were to go out here right now and I want to locate another file, let's see here, and bring in another image. Okay, that would be, let's see, demo data and image files. So I have some image files right here. Let's just say I wanted to select, I'm going to try to pick one that's not already there. Looks like most of them are already there. Oh, let's pick this one here. Okay, so I double clicked on that. I'm going to start my upload and bring it in. So this new picture that I just brought in, it didn't come in full resolution. And so that was one of the questions we've always received is, you know, why don't the pictures come in full resolution? They're changed to thumbnail pictures because if they were full resolution, if you had all these pictures that were full resolution, it would take a long time for the website to load all of those full resolution images. So because it's a thumbnail, it's not quite as clear, but you know, this is good enough to see on your selling site. So, and whenever you bring in those pictures, make sure that you don't forget to update your record. But in any case, I hope that kind of clears things up for you, Gene. These all should be thumbnail pictures as they come in. And since we're here, for maybe the benefit of some of the new students that haven't seen, you know, how we bring in images. So when you bring them in, this is a good question. We usually have a lot of questions around pictures and images. This move up and move down, that's here so that you can, you know, move the picture up or move it down in the display. All right, see, I'm just saying move up, so it went to position number 3. Obviously, if I wanted to move this one from position number 2, just click here to sell your land. I'll just hit move down, and it moves from position number 2 to position number 3. So, okay. So I'm thinking, so that's how you move pictures around up and down. And I think for clarification here, you might be speaking of this picture here. How do we bring in, you put thumbnail prints on these pictures coming in? Okay. And that is a good question. I think that's maybe what you're asking. So to put thumbnail pictures, okay, on your images. And I may have to do a little more research about that, but what I'm going to do real quick here just to see, because I noticed some of them have the thumbnail, the smaller image there, and others of them don't. And that may be a question I have to get with Alex and company to find out how exactly to do that. But let me see this real quick. Might be able to get us an answer here. I'll try typing that into our user guide and see if we have any questions. These all, okay, this is pretty much what I've already explained to you is about how to upload your images and view the property, deletes, okay, how to rearrange. So you can rearrange them by moving them up or down. And we don't have anything specifically. So I'm going to have to research that one. Thank you. That's a good question. And find out for sure. I don't want to make anything up on regarding how you put that on your images, because I don't see off the top of my head how they actually did that, but I can see some of those images are, some of those smaller images are on the images that we bring in. So let's see, let me look here again. That's our record. So I got it, okay. I got it. And we will determine how they actually put that image on, and I'll get back to you on that one. I don't know off the top of my head how they do that. So when they go and what the buyers see. Okay, any of these images that the buyers are going to see on your selling site. I think that's from Gene. Okay. So Gene's asking, said, when they go to the actual site, so not on the pictures, but on your selling site, and what the buyers see when they go to the selling site. And your original question. So the way you would get images onto your selling site, Gene, is so that you can make sure all of them are seen. Now remember, we shared with you also that in order for pictures that you have in your system that are recorded on any record, because this is just one land deal record. So in order to get any of these pictures seen, they have to be marked public, first of all, on your site. They have to be marked public in the record. So now you notice I brought these pictures in, but and only one of them can obviously be featured, right? So I brought these pictures in, but I didn't mark them public or featured. So therefore, these two pictures here, this one of this house, this red house, number 7 and number 8, would not even appear if I went to my selling site. And I'll show you that real quick so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So we'll generate the listing for that record. And you can see I've got all these pictures, but the only ones that are appearing are the ones that are marked public. So if you're asking how do you get them to see, to show, the only way to get them to show is to mark them public here. So I'm going to mark those two public and come up here and update my record. Okay. Pictures to show, and if you want them to show on your selling site. So we updated the record and we now generate that listing. We come back here to our site, and as you can see, now I have those last two pictures in my actual site. So once you have you've uploaded them, and a lot of students, what they forget to do, once they upload these pictures, then they don't save the record, because that's the only way that those pictures are going to be uploaded, is by saving this record. Those are in a complete ready to sell. Those are the ones that you're marketing. You also want to make sure that, let's see, okay, make sure that your listing status is public as well. So, and not private, obviously. So you want that record to show. So that's the only way. Other issue, since you're not talking about these little images here, which I'm going to find out about those too, but if you want them to show, mark them public, and you can only mark one featured, and then they will begin showing on your selling site. Okay. So let's see, Gene, you're asking another question here. Is it in the preview page? Is it in the preview page? And you gave me a URL. No, it's not. It's not in the preview page. I'm not clear exactly what you mean by the preview page, but this is for each record that you have in complete ready to sell. I want you to know that once you put this in complete ready to sell, this is going to begin to display on your selling site, as long as you make sure that your listing is marked public right here. It used to be that you had to have a sale price listed, but I don't think that's the case anymore. I think you can, let's see, under listing, I think they will, as long as you put them in complete ready to sell mode, and this is marked public, your listing status is public, you will then begin to, that was going to begin to display. It used to be, I think, that you had to have a sale price here, and I'll verify that again, but I don't think you have to be, okay. So the featured, Gene, you're asking, you're saying, so maybe you missed the featured picture. That could be. Okay, so we have this one picture here that's marked featured, and this is the picture that's going to display on the very first page of your listing. And as I forestated, the only pictures that will be displayed, or they're either going to be marked public or there'll be one that will mark featured. But in order for them to display, they all have to be marked public, and one is going to be marked featured, and that's going to be the very first page, first picture that appears in your listing. So if you want to make this other one here featured, you saw once I select featured, the featured mark goes away from the first one, and it would show up here on the second one. And then, of course, if we update the record and we generate our listing again, that becomes my first picture that displays. Okay, hopefully there's a little more clarity around that. And we'll just go on and put this one, mark this one back featured. Usually your featured one is the first one you put in, but we put in featured, update your record, and then if we generate that listing, let's see, get rid of some of these that are, okay, that's our featured page here. This is the one I want to see first. Update my record, and then show me generating that listing. Okay. And that is not working right. I will have to check. I'll check with the technical team to see why that didn't work as I anticipated. But what I expected, go in here and edit that again. Let's see. Marked featured. Updated that record and showing me this listing. That didn't go back. It did not go back the way it should have. But that is the way it works in our live. This is a demonstration site. I'm thinking there might be something up with that, but I'm going to have to make a note to check how to mark a photo as featured. Okay, because it should be displaying just the one that we marked featured. Let me go down and try. Oh, let's try the elk picture here as marking that featured. Update our record. For some reason it is not changing. For some reason it is not changing our featured page. So I'll work on that one. Okay, good, Gene. Gene said that works now for him. So that's what it is. Yeah, make sure you mark your pages featured, and I'll find out what's going on with this. Kind of bothers me when we mark something and say only one of these is marked featured. And I update my record. And generate that listing. Not working as I anticipated. Okay, I'll check with the technical team on that. We'll get that handled even in our demo account. Okay, so hopefully that gives folks an idea of how you actually add images and then how you mark them featured, or I'm sure it works in your live accounts. As I said, this is a demo account, and that may be the issue here. So the other question, thanks for those questions. We're going to move on here. We've had some questions around creating a custom document, and really what I found out is some students, depending on what county you're in and what state you're in, there have been some issues with actually the wording, wanting to add a word or two to your offer agreements. So this is around customizing your offer or your sale agreements. And one particular student had communicated to me that the way that the actual document reads right now is that it is one line in here. I'll just go in and pull it up so we can see you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Let's pull up one that has an offer on it. Let's see. And we'll just say generate documents here. And let's pull up the document file. Okay. How about Okay, so here, basically, so this has several offer agreements in here, but what the student was saying is that in some states, okay, this line right here, this 5B, it says this sale will be closed by a reputable title company or a notary public. And let's see, changing one word. And because they specifically, she said, was called out to her that it said a reputable title company or notary public, but in her state, it's in this particular example, it's where it needs to state that it's also can be closed by an attorney. So we basically want to add the word in here on this 5B, closed by an attorney, a reputable title company, or a notary public. And so that's what I'll demonstrate for you real quick, hopefully how to do that. And that's where you can come in and you can create a customized letter. And so you go up here under customize, and we're going to hear customize documents. So this is for any of the built-in documents that we have right now. You have an offer letter, you have a built-in for your neighbor letter, any letters or documents that we have built in. You can change Jack's offer letter, tweak it just a little bit. We're not saying change it, but just tweak it. This one is for the offer agreement. So we come in here and we want to make sure we add a document. One of the first things I want to do even before that, though, let's get rid of. Let's see. What I want to do is make sure that we have under our search user guide, we'll type customize Jack, and what will come up is a series of articles where you can customize Jack's offer, customize the neutral letter, customize the offer, contract agreement when buying, and this is the one that we actually want to change right here. So I'll select that, and the reason being that we want to select this particular one, you'll see as we go through these different steps, I want to actually be able to copy the text in, and I need this one open in order to copy that text in. So basically, these are the steps if you want to customize any of the documents, if you want to change any, one lines or add words, etc. So you first would search on and make sure you can customize that particular document. Just type in Jack's or customize Jack, and it'll bring up the different ones you can customize. We're going to come in here and we're going to come under customize, and under customize documents, we're going to add a document. Do this for the land only, and for document, for purposes just that prevents a lot of confusion, I go on and select both. So the system is going to create a document. It's also going to create a PDF for you. So, and we'll just use this as customize. Let's see, we'll call it custom offer agreement 03. Just name it anything you like that makes sense to you. Under the status, obviously we want this, since this is going to be for your offer, we want it should be impending preliminary research, something like that. You can make it, and then we're going to keep it portrait. You don't have to worry about inserting any actual fields because we're just going to take an existing document and we're going to change it up here. So we want to hit source at this point. This is why we actually searched for Jack's letter before that. So you want to hit source, and we'll come up here under these particular instructions that are going to give you, that you're following. And right here, where it's an actual link, number 9, it says then the context. So you want to copy this, but you want to open this first. Now, this opens up in HTML code, which you don't have to know anything about HTML. But what you do want to do here is you want to make sure you copy all of this information. So all I did here, I'm left clicking and holding down my mouse and scrolling up so it selects all of that. The other way that that can be done, I can also hit a Control A, which will select. So that's holding down the Control key and hitting A simultaneously. It will select all the data. Then you do Control C because you want to copy all of this information. And you see where it's coming in under source. So then you do a Control V as in Victor, and it copies all of that we just we did into your file, right? So you don't have to know HTML code, as I've said before. So you're just copying the HTML code. Then you hit source again, and it puts it back into your own readable text that all of you can see, and you can read this easily. So right here is 5B. This is what we wanted to change. So all we want to do is come in here, put our cursor there, and we want to type in. So it's going to be a reputable, I will put it right here, a reputable attorney, comma, title company, or notary public. It's just that simple. So all we did was type one more word in right there, and we're now going to continue filling out. And so you want to allow envelope or label or no. So we always want to, go on and select label on this. Allow export of data. You want to use that as yes. Allow bulk update. You want to make sure that's yes. And per each property, you can leave that as it is. And you want to move to, you can move it to offer option sent status. Okay, so after we've generated this, it'll move to offer option sent. And I hope that makes sense to you, because this is an offer that you're sending out, and you want the system to know that it's going to be an offer option sent. So it's going to move that status automatically in there. And you just say add. Okay. So then Investment Dominator always adds it, it should be adding your custom documents. And I think it put it on the second page here. Okay, so here we have our custom offer agreement 03. Now, another beautiful thing about Investment Dominator is it allows you to preview. So how to do a document preview without going back into the system. Before, without this document preview here, what we had to do is we had to go back into land deals, all the way back into land deals, and we would have to find a record in a particular status, and we'd have to generate the document to see if our changes worked. But now we can come up here under our custom documents right after we generated that document, and I can do a document preview at this level here. And as you can see, 5B right here is what we changed. So it has our word in there that we put in. So now this sale can be closed by a reputable attorney, title company, or notary public. And just so you know and you're aware, it's just that simple to make a tweak or whatever to any of Jack's documents that he's already um, created, that what we call the built-in documents. You can just tweak one, and it's just that simple to do. And so now the only issue that I noticed in that, as you can see, is it caused it to go over on another line. So that we would want to deal with in our file. So I'd probably go in here and just see real quick if we can find where we could make a tweak. Let's see. Let's see. I'm trying to think where I could get another line from. Basically, we might do something like that, since it puts in another line. And once you make any changes, obviously, you want to update that particular doc. And we'll see if that made our change like we wanted. But basically, you have to find another place where you can, because I put in an extra line. Let's see if that cleared it up for us. Nope, still put us on another line. So that may be the only issue, and that's why a lot of times we have, we keep the built-ins as they are, but we should be able to still fix that. I don't think that may not have been what actually gave us our other line. Let's see here. Let's see, is it? Let's see. And in any case, that is the issue here that we'd have to address. Make any changes to these, you have to kind of tweak, you have to kind of play around with it a little bit and get them to look exactly like you want. Let's see if that, okay, that took care of it. But then you have to look, you look at how visibly is it aesthetically correct, and does it work? But we got it all on one page, which you always want to do, as much as possible. You want to get your seller agreements on one page. But we were able to put in, our other word here and tweak this to our liking. So I hope that kind of gives you an example of how you can modify your documents, any of the built-in ones that are already in the system. It's just that simple to tweak those. And we had questions a while back, probably a few weeks ago, is were we going to be adding any more built-ins? If we were going to add any more built-ins to the actual system, so that you can create more of these documents out of Investment Dominator, and the answer to that is no. We're not going to create any new built-ins, and the reason for that being is that people, these particular documents that we're using that are built in, they've been tested over a long period of time, several years, and with a lot of different transactions that Jack has already done, and basically they work as they are worded, they work as they are already set up. So it's kind of dangerous. We've noticed students have gone out and tried to change some of the way the wording on some of the offer agreements, change some of the wording on the neutral letter agreements or the neutral letters that go out to customers, and found that it didn't work so well. They actually started getting less of a response. So Jack and Company is just recommending that we keep the letters as they're written as much as possible. But like I say, if you have a situation where from your particular county or state, you need to go in and tweak the words on the document, we do have the capability for you to do that. So let's look at just about time for one more question that we actually the difference between stages and statuses, and I'll try to get this handled in a couple of minutes here, which is about all the time we have left. So individuals were asking the difference between a stage and a status and just kind of like how they're used. And I guess the best way to explain that would be to actually show you in the system where you have Investment Dominator stages and statuses, and we can go into our help guide or our user guide, and we'll search stages versus statuses. A lot of articles are already written on a lot of these questions that are in. So I'd always encourage you to, if you have some questions, check your user guide first, and you'll probably get quite a bit of insight here. So the difference between a stage and a status. You remember we started off with showing you our LPG deal flow. Okay, these are the various stages, basically, that your land records will go through, or these are the stages in the actual process that your land deals will go through. So we find that a lot of our stages are in the LPG deal flow, and the basic difference here is that as it says here, a stage is an organizational group that contains records indexed in predefined set of statuses. So in other words, a stage is a step in the deal flow process, and one stage, like let's say our prospect stage here, as you can see here, a prospect stage or a certain stage can have multiple statuses. So if you will, a status has to do with each individual record that you'll see in your Investment Dominator land deals. Each record has a specific status in your, and so a stage can contain different statuses. A status in Investment Dominator, it's going to, as I stated, it's going to correspond to individual records, and they're comparable in your LPG land flow. So, like the prospect stage would actually be getting a contact list of land, and you filtering that list, and you mailing those letters to the the people, and getting ready to talk to your sellers. So that's a prospect stage, and you'll see them in your actual prospect status here. I hope that makes sense. So a stage basically is going to contain, your deals or your records at a particular level. And obviously, if you want to go in and look at all the different levels that you go through, you can go through any record status here, the different stages. We go to from prospect. Now these blind offer and blind offer sent, those are customized statuses that we added. So that's not, it usually goes from prospect status to mail letter 1 status, and then follow up. And then after the individuals write you back and say, hey, I want to accept your offer, we go to preliminary research. So I'm hoping that's going to give a little bit more insight in the difference between a stage and a status. But you can also go in here and reference this article, which takes you through the different stages and statuses that your records can go into. And for the benefit of the new people, we know there's a lot of people that want to actually generate their own custom statuses, and I can show that again on another call. But there's already a video that shows you how to create your own custom statuses. And I'm afraid that's all we have time for today. Thank you all so much for being on the call and for asking your questions. It helps a lot of people when you can ask those questions on an open forum like this. Just to leave this thought with you for today, strength does not come from winning. Your struggles develop your strengths. When you go through hardships and decide not to surrender, that is strength. And that was quoted from Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator. So strength does not come from winning. Your struggles develop your strengths. And when you go through hardships and decide not to surrender, that is strength. So I want you all to have a great weekend. And yes, and I'm feeling much better than I did on Monday. And I appreciate you guys being in on the call and for asking your questions. We'll look forward to being back here on Monday at 5 p.m. Have a great weekend and a great remainder of your day. Take care now. Bye-bye.